Hare Krishna, right? So welcome to our journey of self-discovery. So what's the first question we ask every day?
Happiness.
Anybody woke up today wanting to be unhappy? No? Alright. The streak continues. Yes. We all wake up every day with one goal. How to find happiness. And we want this eternal, everlasting happiness. Free of all difficulties. No more old age, no more disease, no more fear, anxiety, stress. All these things that get in the way of our quest for party. This is our desire. And we talked about the proof of the existence of God. And we established that it is our relationship with God, the Supreme Lord, that really unlocks our opportunity to experience the happiness that we search for. Because the soul, it is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. That is who he said, who am I? I am eternal spirit soul. And I am part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And my ananda, this happiness, it is nature to the soul. But the soul is made of spirit. And thus it finds its happiness in spirit, not in matter. Just as much as oil and water does not mix, spirit and matter are an incompatible situation, as Srila Prabhupada would say. They are not meant to mix. But due to our desire, we had a desire for the Lord, who has this beautiful realm of Vaikuntha, free of all miseries. But we said, I want to experience life without you, my Lord. And he said, okay, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I can create this material world. It is a place where one can pretend to be separated from the Lord. Because in reality, every breath we take, every step we take, everything we do in this world, we are fully dependent on the resources of the Lord. And we know this factually. Because we know, what did we bring into this world with us? Anything? Nothing. But do we survive on nothing? We survive on so many things. If the sun does not rise tomorrow, what is our status of existence? If plants stop emitting oxygen and taking in all of our carbon dioxide, what is our existence? If the earth is not full of potent resources, what are we going to find on the shelves of Costco and Walmart? So our whole existence is established and created by our Creator. So in this material world, we compared it. What did we compare it to last time? Jail. Our Shastra says this material world is like a prison house. And the spiritual world is like the real community. And this prison house of the material world, it is meant to help us purify, to progress, so that we can achieve a higher purpose. And we know, when one is in the prison house, what is their singular goal? To be comfortable, make a nice living there? To work their way out. But if one is situated in that prison house thinking, oh, I'm better off than the other prisoners, I guess I'm good. We, seeing on the outside, observing such mentality, would we consider that to be very intelligent? In fact, we would have compassion, thinking, wow, how I can explain to this person that there's so much more for existence. Well, similarly, trying to make a comfortable place in this material world is no different to such a mentality of a person. So now, we talked about the impurities, this lust, anger, pride, envy, illusion, these things that reside in our heart. And once we purify from them, then we can go back home, back where we came from, the land of Vaikuntha. So now we're going to talk about this, why do bad things happen to good people? How do our activities affect where we go in this material world? That is the question we're going to answer today. What is the source of my happiness and of my suffering? Okay? So we learned that God is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss, enjoying unlimited happiness in the spiritual world. So the logical question comes in, why are we here suffering so much? If we are part and parcel of God, why are so many bad things happening to good people? People working hard, yet we find families devastated by crisis. We find natural disasters destroying communities and societies. We see crimes occurring that rip apart the sanity and peaceful existence we search for. So we see this happening. And if the Lord is merciful and so kind and loving, then why is He not doing anything about it? Why is He not stopping all this suffering? So that is a question we often have. And an incomplete answer to this is what leads many to doubt the existence of God. If there was a God, He would not allow such things to happen. So that is what we're going to answer today. What is the cause of the evil and of the suffering that we see around us? What is the root cause of that? And we're going to come to the conclusion to understand that it actually is not God who is to blame, but it is God who is to embrace and is our path free from this suffering. And we'll see why this suffering actually is taking place and how we can make better decisions from this day forward to end once and for all our own suffering and for those around us. Okay? So, we know we're going to talk about the laws of karma. So we've all faced major setbacks in life. We've seen those who have had setbacks. And we've tried to help. And so how to understand them. I'm going to skip this for a second. So Harold Kushner, he was a very prominent rabbi. And he wrote this book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. Now Kushner was a rabbi, and he was struggling because as they were just celebrating the birthday of their second child, the birth of their second child, they got the devastating news that their first child, who was just 3 years old, was diagnosed with a very rare disease called progeria. And it meant that his whole body would age very rapidly. By 10 or 11 years old, he would have the body of like an 80-year-old. And he would not live past his teens. He actually ended up dying at the age of 14. And we can imagine how devastating that was to hear and to acquire. And so Kushner, was really perplexed by this. He said, I have spent my whole life serving the mission of God, serving the community, helping people through their struggles. And this is the reward I get? He was really struggling with trying to understand, how is it that such bad things can happen to good people? And so he began to explore, and he explores in his book, 3 fundamentals of the Christian faith. These 3 fundamentals are also in our Vedic philosophy of Zen. One, that God is all-powerful. He's omnipotent. That no power can supersede the power of God. So we say this, Mare Krishna Rake Ke, Rake Krishna Mare. Whoever Krishna wants to protect, nobody can harm. And whoever Krishna wants to harm, nobody can protect. That is what we call absolute power. It is not checked by anyone, any circumstance, any time. So that is the one principle. The second principle of God is He's all-knowing. That He knows everything that's happening. We know what is happening in our surrounding, but we don't even know what's happening upstairs or the next door. But God, He has knowledge of everything. What's happening in every corner of the total of creation. Full knowledge. And 3, that God is all merciful. That He's all loving. That He loves everybody very much. So Kushner was left to conclude that one of these 3 must not be true. Either He's not all powerful, either He's not all knowing, or maybe He's not all loving. Because if all 3 were true, then how is it that such a thing could happen? How could bad things happen? So he was trying to analyze. And so he started going through. He said, well, maybe he didn't know what was happening. But he quickly ruled that out. That God must be all-knowing. In order to be able to create such an extraordinary creation, He must be knowing. and have knowledge of everything. So he kind of checked that box. Then he started exploring, is God all loving? And he concluded, God must be all loving. Who doesn't love all of their children? And we're all the children of God. And so he must be all loving. And so then Krishna concluded, by default, then that God must not be all powerful. He can create this world and all the inhabitants and all the facilities, but then he steps away and other forces enter. And one of those forces is the evil force they call Satan. This force of evil. And that can overtake even the will of God. So this was Krishna's explanation for why bad things happen to good people. That this force of evil can overtake the desire of good. Now our Vedas say that God is all powerful and He's all knowing and all loving. So what is another plausible explanation? Why are these things happening? That is what we'll get perfect answers for. Because the idea that God is not all powerful also doesn't stand the reasonableness test. How one could create such a thing and yet be conquered by another force. Okay? So let us answer this question now. And the main question is, who is responsible for our distress? Is it the Lord or is it some other factor? Okay? So I'm going to fast forward. You can enjoy the quick synopsis, summary, all we covered last week. And come to karma. So this is the 5th topic in the Bhagavad Gita, and the final topic that we're going to cover before next week we start talking about the practical application. Okay? So this law of karma is going to answer so many of our questions. Maybe along the way, learning about karma is going to provoke some questions, so please ask them. But by understanding this, it is going to answer finally, once and for all of our questions. Because a faulty conclusion here leads us to blame God. And instead, we're going to see how we should lead us to embrace the Lord. And last week, we talked about the 8.4 million species of life. And if we don't understand these laws of karma and shape our activities accordingly, we then risk cycling back down all those 8.4 million species of life. As I mentioned last week, when my wife asked me to take a spider out, ironically, she asked me today to take a spider out. It happened again today. And I said, do you know the only thing different between this spider and me? It's our karma. This spider has misused its independence more than I have, and thus it has got a spider body. But it also has soul. It is also made up of Sat Chit Ananda. It is also the child of the Supreme Lord. And soon this spider, after wearing its karma, will again regain its human birth. It will achieve back to the human form of life. And there, a series of decisions will be made about what to do and what not to do. And based on those decisions, it will determine where we go next. And we are back at that junction, having been that spider and all other 8.4 million species of life. And now it is up to us to understand these laws and then make our decisions accordingly. And if we do, then we will make the most of this higher intelligence we've been given. And not just use it to eat nicely, sleep nicely, mate nicely, and live nicely. So these next set of questions, anytime I speak with anybody who's having trouble with the topic of reincarnation, in the Christian faith, it's a little bit ambiguous on this topic. But some have a struggle of understanding past lives. This series of questions, I think, helps illuminate the logic behind reincarnation. So we see in this world that why is it that some are born in very rich circumstances and some are born in very poor circumstances? Some are born very strong and healthy, others not so much. Why are some born, by whatever definition we have, very beautiful, and others maybe more beauty inside, externally not so much? Some have plenty to eat. Others are starving miserably. Some have lots of education and facilities for development, and others, even the basic of needs, are barely met. Some live in very big homes and mansions, and others, small, humble homes. Some born to very rich parents, and others not. So why is this happening? Is it by just random chance that we're placed into one home and not another home? We land in one country and not another? Is it by random chance that is happening? It seems more plausible that something in my past has led to my current situation. For example, when the professor posts the grades for all the students at the end of the term, is he randomly assigning who gets a A and who gets a B and who gets a C? Is it random? If I see that and just see that, I say, wow, this person is unlucky and this person is lucky. The reality is this grade, this situation today, reflects what was done throughout the prior course. And thus this grade is manifested. So similarly, our current situation, it's more logical that it's based on some past activities. Something we've done in the past has brought us to this situation. Otherwise, the randomness would certainly not be fair. Why one is born in such a wonderful situation and another not. That would, if this was the beginning of our experience, then we would all seem to have the same starting point, the same opportunity, and from there we make our own. So, let us try to understand that if God is all-knowing, He's present everywhere, He's all-loving and all-powerful, then we should understand that nothing is happening without His sanction or approval. Not even a blade of grass moves without the approval of the Lord. So then, isn't God responsible for my suffering? Is that the logical conclusion? Is He just partial, picking winners and losers? Saying, you suffer, you enjoy, you suffer more, you enjoy less? Or is it something else? So one thing we can establish immediately. Since the Supreme Lord and the Creator is perfect, He's all-knowing, He's all-powerful, He could stop whatever He wanted, and He's all-loving. If these three things are facts, it means that He is approving or sanctioning whatever is happening in this world. Because if He didn't want it to happen, He would stop it. Right? So He is sanctioning everything that is happening in this world. So the only question now becomes why? Why would He sanction such things and such difficulties? What is the purpose behind such an approach? Okay? And the other question would be, how is He sanctioning? How is He deciding who gets and who doesn't? So we understand one thing. In the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Ambarish Maharaj, in the passage of Ambarish Maharaj, Krishna tells Durvasa Muni, I don't even enjoy my whole spiritual world that is full of all this opulence and bliss when my devotees and my children are not there with me. So we know one thing. He wants us to be happy. He wants us to be happy. So why is He allowing this to happen? So we know in the courtroom, there's a judge. And the Lord is compared to a judge. And we know that a judge sometimes awards punishment. And that same judge awards to somebody else some great benefit or reward. So how is good and bad results coming? Is it just random? Is He partial? Is He picking, I like you, you take $1 million. I don't like you, you go to jail? Is that how a judge works? No. So a judge makes decisions based on two things. Activity of the individual, laws of the land. And we know a good judge is fully unbiased. Is not biased by anything else. Simply looks at the activities of the individual and the laws of the land. And based on that, sometimes awards great benefits and sometimes suffering. But is unbiased, impartial. And that is God, the same judge. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells us, I am impartial. I envy nobody. I'm equal to all. But of course, he's very dear to his devotees. So he's not randomly selecting who gets to enjoy and who gets to suffer. But the difference between God as a judge and the judge in the courtroom is that God is the perfect all-knower. When a judge makes a decision, is it perfect? Why? He's human. The error is? Whatever the judge is being asked to make a judgment upon, some action happened. Were they there to be the eyewitness of that activity? No. They are relying on others to produce information, and then based on that, hopefully everybody's operating under the oath of telling the truth, then the judge has to make a decision. So they're limited in the decision. But God is the perfect judge. Why? Because he is the direct eyewitness to everything. Once in the Gurukul, a guru had 5 disciples. And he wanted to teach them a lesson. So they came in the morning, and in front of their little sitting area, there was a coconut in front of all of them. And they were studying deep in the forest. And so Gurudev used to give them different activities, some hard, some easy. And he said, okay, I want you to go somewhere where nobody can see you and break this coconut. And then the boys, oh, this is easy, we're in the forest. So one went deep into a bush and broke the coconut. One went high up into a tree. Other went into a cave. One even went down into the river and broke the coconut so nobody would see him. And like this, they came back. But one boy had the coconut sitting in front of them. And all the other 4 boys laughed at you, fool. You couldn't even find one place in this, desolate, isolated forest to break this coconut. And so Gurudev asked all the boys, well, what did you do? He was, I went to a tree, I went into a river, into a cave, into a bush. And so he asked, why have you not broken this coconut? And he said, there is nowhere I can go where God is not seeing what I'm doing. And then the Guru said, yes, now you have understood the purport of this example, of this lesson. You may escape man's law, but you can't escape God's laws. The bank robber in the dead of night may escape the eyes of the police in robbing a bank, but you can never escape the eyes of God. He is the perfect judge. He sees everything. And thus, the rewards and the punishment he doles out is always perfect. So what is karma? So karma is the actions that we do that carry reactions. And we should know clearly what to do and what not to do. We should understand what is right and what is wrong. Why? Why can't we just do what we want? Well, because there's a law of karma. The law of karma says, whatever action we do, there is an equal and opposite reaction generated. Newton's third law of physics. So whatever activity we do, that we can choose. But what we don't get to choose is the reaction that ultimately comes back to us. So acting whimsically, doing whatever I want, is a right you have, but recognize those actions carry consequences. Just like your actions in your home, in your office, in the city, driving down Big Beaver, and in this material world. There are rules. So everything we do, it will ultimately come back to us. And thus, one cannot be casual or whimsical about the actions they choose. They must understand. Because ultimately we are accountable. And there's no escape for the laws of karma. They're 100%. Every action, equal and opposite reaction. And because the law of karma is governed by the Supreme Lord, we know it is applied perfectly. Never too much, never too little. Always in exacting proportion to whatever past actions we have done. This is the law of karma. And so everyone goes exactly according to their activities. And we wonder, we see these mass calamities and tragedies, and we seemingly see innocent people being swept away into different difficulties. Remember, the Lord knows who is there and who is not. He has perfect control. So there's some reason He is sanctioning this activity. And if we understand this, that the Supreme Lord is all powerful. He could stop anything with just His thought. Doesn't have to go do. He's all knowing. Every corner, He knows exactly what's happening. And He's all loving. Then one fact is true. And this is a little hard to digest, but just take it, file it away, and let it unpeel. A little difficult to digest. I want to make a couple of statements today that are hard to digest, but I think we can take it now. There's cake at the end if it's too hard to digest. There is no such thing as injustice in this world. Because an injustice implies that Krishna made a mistake. That something happened that should not have happened. That is the implication. But why? How? So let us understand this now. So the details of karma are very difficult for us to understand. This reaction I got today, where it came from, is a very complex system, but we can understand the general principle. And this comes from the Bible. It says, as you sow, you shall reap. Whatever crops you put into the ground, that's what you're going to get out. Whatever actions we do, there's going to be an equal and opposite reaction. I slap somebody today, sometime in the future, someone is going to. That's reaction from an action. So let us understand a few different questions about laws of karma. So I'm going to preempt some questions. So we know, who am I? I'm soul. Where are we? We're in the material world. The situation we're in this material body. What are we bound by? The gold, iron, and silver chains. And what is controlling this? Time, under the jurisdiction of Paramatma, the Supreme Lord. So when I want to do an activity, what is my role in activity? I can desire. I can express it. I want to move my hand. But then when that hand is moved, it's carried out by the material world through this body and the three modes of nature. Anybody is controlling the neurons firing in their brain? No. It happens by a chemical set of reactions that trigger the muscle. My desire was expressed, and then it happened. And who sanctioned, approved that moving of the hand? It is Paramatma, the Supreme Lord. So all action, activity we do, it works under these three constituents. There's actually 5 constituents of action that Krishna explains in the 18th chapter, but we'll summarize it in short form here. 1 is my desire, 2 is the Lord's sanction, and 3 is the material nature carrying it out. Just like if you go to a restaurant, and you go to a Govinda's and you order pizza. I sit down and say, I want pizza. So what happens? The owner decides, am I qualified to have pizza? Do I have money? Do I have the right dress code for the restaurant? If do, then he orders the waiter to grab pizza from the kitchen and deliver it to me as a customer. Right? Can I desire pizza and go and get my own pizza from the kitchen? Doesn't work that way. This is how action works. We are the customer, the soul. The material nature is like the waiter who brings the things. And the cashier, the owner, is like the Lord. The owner decides who can get and who cannot, but it starts with our desire. Owner doesn't force us to eat pizza. Krishna doesn't force our actions. Our actions are determined by us. But what happens and doesn't happen is based on the approval of the Lord. And how does the Lord approve? Based on our karma. Am I qualified? How does that owner of the restaurant decide whether to give me pizza or not? Have I followed the rules of the restaurant? Have I qualified in their realm to have pizza? If I do, I get it. Same thing in the world. I express my desires. The Lord looks at what is my qualification based on past actions. If it is, it'll happen. If not, it won't. So this is our role in action. So what are the different types of karma? There are 3 types of karma. We typically think of 2. There are good activities. I do some pious activity. Good action equals good result. There are some bad activities. Right? I do something against the law. Then bad action equals bad reaction. Now we're getting into Newton's third law. Right? So the scripture gives us the do's and don'ts, like a manual. Those who follow the laws of God are considered pious, and those who are not are considered impious. It doesn't matter, the laws of the state, of the city, or even of the nation are there. But ultimately we must answer to God's laws. So we must learn and understand what those are. And these laws, they are based on time, place, and circumstance. What's right for one may be wrong for another. So very important to understand the nature of the activities. Right? So, for example, if I break into somebody's house at night, break a window, climb in, and take their valuable possessions out, is that good action or bad action? Is it bad action if their house is on fire and I break into their window to save their children from the burning fire? I just told you I broke into their house at night. See? So the action, good or bad, it depends on the circumstance. It depends on what the intent and purpose is. The action alone will not define whether it is good or bad. Right? So some things are good and some things are bad. One thing for me may be different for somebody else. So we must understand according to time, place, and circumstance. And that is how the laws of karma act. So we'll come back to this in a second. So good activities. What are they? Helping others, feeding the poor, living a pious life. These moral principled life. And what is the result of that? Well, it is good karma. We get good reactions. And what are the tangible results of good reactions? Well, we see it. We're born in very nice circumstances. We have good facilities in life. We have good health, good wealth, intelligence, all the different things that we want. What is that coming from? Is it random? No. It is based on our past good karma. And so the tangible result is that. And if we do really good karma, we can even go, we are situated in the middle planetary system, we can even go to some of the higher planets, where there is longer lives, people enjoy celestial airplanes and beautiful gardens and less disease. There's even a higher quality of life. So if you do really good karma there. But the problem is, still, even in those higher planets, there is old age, disease, death, stress, fear, anxiety, conflict. Maybe in lesser degrees, but they're there. So that is like trying to get to the A-class jail cell. Do we want to stay at the A-class jail cell? So these higher planetary, but this is a result of good karma. Doing generally good principled activities will get us to this point. But the downside, the challenge is, once you use up your good credits, you have to come back down. Prabhupada give the example. The airplane can fly in the sky, but when it runs out of fuel, it must come back down. You can enjoy on a vacation, but when you run out of vacation days or money, you come back to reality. This is like the results of very good karma. So it's better than bad, but we're going to talk about, is there an even better opportunity? And so what about bad karma? What is bad? Again, what is bad is not relative to what I think is bad or good, or what you think. It is according to the Creator. That is the way. I don't get to pick the laws of how I live in the city of Troy, do I? No, I choose to live here. I abide by the laws. So similarly, we are in this material world. We must abide by the laws of God. And so it is incumbent on us to understand them. And then we decide if we're going to abide by them or not. But the reactions we get, we don't get to decide. That is based on our action. So there are 4 moral codes that society or dharma stands on. And these are 4 pillars of mercy, truthfulness, cleanliness, and austerity. And these are common principles, regardless of religion or culture or belief. These are 4 principles that make a good society. Right? If we live in a society that has mercy, nobody harms each other, do we consider that good? We consider a society where everybody tells the truth. Consider it good? Where there's cleanliness, meaning cleanliness of the mind. Remember I said you write down all your thoughts in the mind and your neighbor won't invite you home for lunch tomorrow? Imagine we all had clear minds. In austerity, we live, within our means, not, living ostentatiously. But these are general societal norms, but they are based in our Vedic principles. And so there are 4 sinful activities that break each of these 4 pillars of Dharma. And so these are the 4 principles that we should avoid. The do's we'll come to, but the don'ts are these 4. We should avoid these 4 activities. And I told you I was going to say a few things that might unsettle you. The first I already said, and this is the second one. So this is maybe a little bit, whoa. But don't worry. There's a great silver lining, maybe a platinum lining at the end of all of this to understand this. But these are the facts. And I would be doing an injustice if I tried to sugarcoat it. I'm just going to tell it to you as it is. So the 4 activities that our Shastra enjoined that we must avoid to stop breaking these 4 pillars of Dharma are: first is the consumption of flesh, eating of meat. When we are willing to slit the throat of an animal to satisfy our tongue, mercy is lost. Where is the compassion? And we put so much distance between the slaughterhouse and our dining table. Why? Because this is not an action that we are very proud of, nor that we want really any taking part of. So this mercy is lost when we are willing to do this. And this is a big topic. I'm not going to spend so much time on it. But even materially speaking, the consumption of flesh, if just 10% of the people turned vegetarian, there would be 225 million people more that could be fed with today's production of grain. Actually, all of world hunger would end with just a little bit more than 30% of the population taken to our natural diet. The amount of water that is consumed is creating an environmental disaster. These plant-based companies are coming up simply to solve the environmental damage by this front. And even the development of our body, I said our natural. If you study the animal kingdom, you will see very common traits between all herbivores, plant-eating animals, and all carnivores, meat-eating animals. And guess where humans are? All. You will not find a single carnivore in the entire animal kingdom that has long intestines. They're all very short because of the decomposing nature of the bacteria contained in flesh, and thus it must be excreted from the system quickly. And what do humans have? Extremely long intestines. Almost 4 times the length of the body. The acidity level, the pH in the stomach and the saliva. All herbivores fall within one range, and all carnivores fall within another range. And where do humans fit? Between 1.5 and 2.0. All within the herbivore. Like this, there are so many biological. So again, from a spiritual perspective, we know every animal is also a spirit soul. part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, which has a connection with the Lord. And so we know from this one, but even from a material perspective. And some will say that, well, in Shastra there is some sanction for eating of flesh. And there is a sanction. But it's a sanction that's very extreme, and it's meant to free one ultimately from this activity. It says in one of our scriptures that if you want to eat flesh, you can eat flesh, but you must eat goat. You must not eat any other animal. But you cannot eat goat any old time. You must offer this goat first to goddess Kali. But you must offer only on the Amavasya day. So once in the month, you can offer. But you must offer it in a way that you, the one who wants to eat, is the one that must take the life of the animal. You cannot outsource this action. And you must do it in the middle of the night. You cannot do it during the daytime. So that others will not be disturbed by the squeal of the animal. Even when you slit, all this is given. You must look eye to eye in the animal and then take its life. But then there's one final injunction. You must chant one mantra into the ear of that goat. And that mantra says, Mansaha. I am doing to you, you will do to me. Then we can do. And the point is to get us to understand this is not something we should do. But if we must, do it in a regulated way that ultimately will help us purify. But this is the first regulator principle. The second pillar that is broken is truthfulness by the activities of gambling. Gambling is an activity in which we hide or deceive the odds, convince people, oh, you can win, you see all the billboards. It is ultimately a principle. And we know how many families are destroyed by the irresponsible use of this activity. So many. Cleanliness of the mind is lost when we take to illicit affairs. Relationships outside the confines of marriage are prohibited. Obvious. But one that must be reinforced over and over again. And finally, austerity. When we take to intoxication, we break the austerities of the mind. We use this as a way to escape the troubles and struggles we have. But the reality is we must use our intelligence to find a higher power. How many good decisions have we made when we are intoxicated? And how many bad decisions have we made? Many more. So these are activities that we must avoid. So these four activities: meditating breaks mercy, truthfulness is broken by gambling, cleanliness by illicit affairs, and austerity by intoxication. So these are the four don'ts. And as I said, this may seem like, oh boy, this is too much now. Yes, I understand. But we should understand one thing very importantly. This statement. Krishna consciousness is an additive process. It is not a subtractive process. When we add spiritual activities to our life, we will naturally purify of these other activities. The Lord is so merciful. He doesn't say, hey, if you want to take to my service, you must first be free and be purified and perfect. No. When you go to try to get a job with a company, does the employer say, hey, you just come and work for me, and I don't care what skills you have. I'll teach you the skills you learn, and then you'll go on, but I'll pay you all along the way. Does any employer say that? No. You have to prove your worth and your merit, your qualification. But Krishna does not say that. He says, doesn't matter what you may be doing. You may be breaking all four principles. No problem. Just start the spiritual journey. Just start wherever you are. By adding Krishna to our life, we will naturally subtract or lose taste for these activities. It is not by subtracting them I can then take to devotional life. These are very tightly ingrained activities. And so simply by adding a little bit of spirituality to our life, we'll find this great benefit. And so this is what we have to understand. And, we can appreciate the severity of these 4 activities. They're like all pervasive in society. But we can see at the end of the day, these are also, activities that would disqualify. Suppose we have a daughter who's ready to be married, and one proposition comes to marry a boy. And the boy says, I will never intoxicate myself and make a decision I will ever regret. I will never gamble away my family's wealth and put my family's security at risk. I will never have a relationship outside of my relationship in marriage. And, all right, I won't eat meat. At least I know I'll have a healthy heart. If I'm not, I think I'm not. Would we consider that person a qualified candidate for marriage? So these are generally good principles. But sometimes because of social convention, they seem hard for us to imagine how I can live without them. But again, remember, by adding spiritual life, we'll become free. But what is the result of these activities? The 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam gives an example of what happens. So for every activity, there is a reaction, a very specified reaction, and not a random reaction, but very specified. And so we must suffer the reactions for these activities. So then it is up to us to decide. I can decide the action, but I don't get to decide the reaction. That is handed down. And so we know we can escape man's laws, but we can't escape God's laws. I think in one of the question and answer sessions I gave, did I give the story of the 300 person who killed 300 people, person who killed one person? Right? So the guy thought, I killed 300, I got away with 299. No. He'll also pay. Man may only charge him with one, but God will take care of the other 299. There is no getting away with murder. This person's getting away with everything. Sometimes that troubles us greatly. No. But so now we can see, why is there so much suffering around us? How much intoxication is there in this world? 56 billion animals are killed every year to satisfy the tongue. And that doesn't include fish. 56 billion. So these activities, how much gambling is taking place? Now, used to be you have to go to random parts of the country, and now virtually every community. So the reactions must be had from all these activities. And that is what we see around us. That is the cause of it. And so we have to choose the actions we take today very seriously. Because there will be reactions. Whether I agree with them or not, it doesn't matter. They are coming. Because these are the laws of God. These are exacting. And so, our general tendency is to blame God for our suffering. A parent tells a kid, study for your exam. Exam is coming. Study for your exam. Exam is coming. And the kid just decides to play video games. And then child comes home and brings a bad grade and says, see, this is your fault. And what does parents say? I told you. This is what we tend to do. When things are going good, I did it. And when something bad happens, God, why you let me down? We're very childish, like our children will do to us. So different. So we have to understand our actions today determine tomorrow. So how do the laws of karma work? Sometimes they act individually, one-on-one. Sometimes through these great calamities. This is Krishna's efficiency system. Delivers karmic reactions in bulk. But not one living entity is innocently swept away. We see randomness and chaos as a tornado rips through a community. But remember, everything is known and ordained by the Lord, according to the laws of karma. Not randomly. We see randomness, but actually there is great precision. So sometimes karma is handed out individually, and sometimes it's handed out in mass. But again, every action equals equal and opposite reaction. Never too much and never too little. So this is the source of now this question. What is the duration of karma? This leads to the biggest question we have. I've only seen good in my life, so why am I getting bad? You said good equals good, bad equals bad. I've only done good, and you may be very right. So why bad? Let us answer this question now. So there are two types of karma. One is instant and one is delayed. Like getting cash. Now this example is becoming old because nobody writes a check and deposits it. But back in the day, the olden days, as my kids would say, you wrote a check, it takes a couple days to clear. ATM is like instant cash, right? Or this example I think many can relate to. I'll skip this one. You say something smart to wife, reaction is instant. At least in my case. You do some crime in the court, it might take 6 months or a year for the judgment to come. So sometimes the reaction is instant, and sometimes the reaction is delayed. But the reaction comes. Right? Sometimes diseases take a long time to incubate. So I gave this story once, but I'll tell it again. These reactions, what we see today, we can see the reaction. But what we don't know is when was the action committed to generate this reaction. It may have happened yesterday or the prior day, but it might have also happened lifetimes ago. Dhritarashtra was confused by this. He said, I'm the eldest son of the king, which made me the rightful heir to the kingdom. But I was born blind. So my younger brother became king. But then he unexpectedly died. And I became king again. But my younger brother had 5 sons. I had 100. And now all 100 of mine are gone, and his 5 are here. But why did this happen? So Krishna told him. 100 lifetimes ago, you were the son of a hunter. And you climbed a tree. And they climbed that tree and you poked out the eyes of the father bird. And then you killed all 100 of its offspring. And thus, you have now been born blind and have lost all 100 of your offspring. You forgot, but I did not. So Dhritarashtra says, okay, but why you made me wait 100 lifetimes to experience my reactions? He said, well, I had to wait for you to acquire the good karma to get 100 children. Then I could give you this reaction. So the timing is very complicated because it's to develop the circumstance in which that reaction can give is very complicated. But we know one thing. In the Bible it says, the mills of God grind exceedingly slow, but very finely. What it means is when a mill, it grinds, every grain is ground. Meaning every action generates a reaction. Nothing slips through. This is the perfect law system of the Lord. So the results we see today, we don't know when we created the action. We can see only one page in a book. If I read one page of a novel, can I draw conclusions on a whole book? No, because there are many things that happened prior. Similarly, we've lived many, many lifetimes and incurred reactions from many lifetimes. So what we see today is only a small fraction of the total activities we've done to generate karma. I'll give you another example. Once I was discussing with an elderly lady, a very sweet lady, but she had been experiencing so much difficulty, one trouble after another. And she was very sad. She said, my whole life, I have worked to do nothing but good for others. I've never taken something selfishly. I've never I've always tried to serve everybody. But yet I keep facing setback after setback, difficulty after difficulty. She was heartbroken. And of course I asked, have you taken to Krishna consciousness, to God? He said, how can I do that? He has forgotten me. How can you tell me to look to him? So I asked, I said, can I tell you a story? As you might know, I like to tell stories. I said, let me tell you a story of a farmer. She kindly agreed. And there was a farmer. And on the farm, they have these grain silos. And we know we put grain in, and we take them out. So this farmer is cultivating the fields. And 2 years ago, the farmer did very good farming, great fertilizer, very active cultivation, watered the fields nicely, cultivated on time, and high quality crops came. And so they filled the first third of the silo with good crops. Last year, farmer was a little bit lazy, a little bit late in planting, a little bit late in harvesting, didn't put so much fertilizer. Then medium quality crops came. They filled the next third of the silo with medium quality. Then this year, really lazy, bad crops came. No water, no fertilizer, really dry, rotten crop. And they put the bad crops in. And mother tells the child, child, go to the silo and get some crops. Get some rice. So what kind of rice comes out first? Good crops. And the child said, wow! What an amazing machine this is. Father's putting bad crops in, and out are coming good crops. And father says, child, understand. 3 years ago, I was putting in good crops. So that is what's coming now. But those bad crops I put in, those are also coming a little bit later. This is like karma. Karma is like our silo. Whatever we put in is come out. If I am seeing bad reactions now, it is due to something bad. But if I'm doing good actions now, I am putting good crops into my silo. So I explained it like, you're putting good crops into your silo. Those reactions are also coming to you. Yes, the difficulty we are enduring, it is very difficult and painful. And, we can help with this. But understand, the good that you are doing will not go unanswered. Don't think, these people are doing so much bad things and getting good activities. Maybe I should follow their way. Because they're getting good activities today. But the bad actions that they're doing will also come out of their karma silo also someday. So we must be very careful to understand. Whatever we put in, ultimately will come out. This doesn't manufacture any good or bad. What goes in must come out. So I told Louis, you're putting so much good in. Continue. And that will go unanswered. But we don't know when. So our suffering, like the Dhritarashtra, is born from that. Even the good activities. It is born from things we've done recently and things we have done long ago. So this is why sometimes we have lack of clarity to see why sometimes bad things are happening to good people. Because we see the good today, but we haven't seen some of the past. And that good today will not go unanswered. So one of the questions we get is, what if I didn't know? Am I excused? Ignorance is not a bliss. Driving 80 miles down the road on Big Beaver, and you tell the officer, sorry officer, I didn't know. Will you get off your ticket? No. If you choose to operate a vehicle on the road, it is your responsibility to know the laws of the road and thus abide by them. Whether you agree with the laws or not, does that matter? Officer, I don't think the speed limit should be 45. I think it should be 80. Does that matter? What we think should be the laws of God don't matter. We must follow them because the reactions will come. we should understand them and get them. Once I was given a fine. I started a business and I didn't fill out a particular form, and I got this heavy fine, and I filed my complaint. I didn't know. It's my first time. I'm sorry. Here's the form. I said, thank you. I said, can you refund me the fine? And he says, no. I said, I know, but it was a mistake. I know, but you chose to run your business. You must know what you need to do. I said, okay, I do, but take the fine. He's like, no, the fine is the inspiration that you don't do it again. But that was a clever answer. I tried my best. But this is also true. The suffering, the difficulties we face in the world, this is also God's grace. It is God's love. Remember, when we were kids, our mother yelled at us sometimes maybe had to handle us roughly. Why? Out of love. To get us onto the right track. If the neighbor's child wasn't studying or misbehaving, didn't do anything. But if we were, some punishment. But that punishment was out of love to help us correct and get us back on track. So even the difficulties that we face in this world, yes, they're going to be there. But we can see them as the Lord's gentle correction and slap to help us, inspire us to get back on track, to get back into the right path. And with this perspective, we can find some peace. But again, we often do the opposite. When good comes, I did it. And when bad comes, Lord, you let me down. But in fact, we should embrace even some of the challenges as an opportunity. Sometimes easier said than done. One other question we get. Okay, I did some bad karma yesterday. I better go do some good karma today. Let me go to the senior center and help support. Doesn't work that way. Good in means good out. Bad in means bad out. Good doesn't nullify bad. Understand? 7 minus 4 doesn't work. 7 good credits means 7 good reactions. 4 bad credits means 4 bad reactions. Both are coming to you. And let me tell you something. Nobody's going to come and take your credits. You have to come back. As long as there are credits in our account, either good or bad, we have to take them. So that is what is binding us to this material world. It's not gravity, not having a big enough saw to cut the chains. It is our karma. As long as we have some reactions to take, we must come back and get them. Because nobody's going to take them for us. So the goal for us is to have 0 good and 0 bad. Then we are okay. But 7 minus 4 doesn't work. We must take all the reactions, good or bad. So now what to do? Because bad karma gets bad reactions, but good karma also, because it keeps us here. Now I'm stuck. Am I supposed to just sit and do nothing? What do we do? Well, that's where we get to akarma. Remember I said good karma, bad karma, and akarma. This is the third option. And this means we work, but no reaction. So how to do this? What does it mean to do activities but no reaction? Srila Prabhupada used to explain this by saying, a soldier is trained by the government how to fight in battle. He is given a uniform. He is given equipment. And that soldier goes out into battle and conquers so many enemies. That soldier comes back and is given a medal, a reward, a promotion, and celebrated in society. That same soldier, with the same training, same weapons, gets into a fight with his neighbor, and boom, that same government puts him behind jail for punishment. What's the difference? Both are firing the weapon, both are using the training. What's the difference?
So you are doing for nation and you are doing for himself.
Yes. In the first, he was working under the instructions of the government, under the nation, and thus was rewarded accordingly. But in the second instance, we're working according to his own desire. We have been given this body. Where did it came from? Earth, air, fire, water, ether. These facilities. If we use these facilities under the guidance of the Supreme Lord, then there is no reactions. It is Krishna's reactions. But as soon as I use these facilities for my own desires, now I have reactions. So akarma, spiritual life, doesn't mean to become inactive. It means to become enthusiastically active, but under the guidance of the Supreme Lord. If we're going to act whimsically and use this world how we want, then we'll have the reactions. But if we use all the facilities according to the instructions of the Lord, then no reactions. Remember, Arjuna is shooting arrows, Duryodhana is shooting arrows. But the consequences are completely opposite. Why? Arjuna is shooting arrows under the instructions of Krishna. Duryodhana is shooting arrows under the instructions of his false ego. So the reactions are completely different. So again, why we do the activity, that is the key. And so when we do our work, do it according to the instructions of the Lord, then we find actually the perfect activities to do. And what is the major benefit of doing akarma? One, we put no new grains into our account. And that means I am rapidly shrinking the time in which then I can go back home. But there is an even bigger benefit. Not only is there no new reactions created, but it also destroys huge amounts of past reactions. That statement I made, what goes in must come out, except for when Krishna is involved. He says, I will take millions and millions of lifetimes of past reactions. And that's why he says, Aham tam sarva papyabhyo. He says, Sarva dharmam prityaja mam ekam sharanam bhaja. If you just surrender unto me, follow my instructions, then I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. Whatever you've done in the past, even that I can take. And this is the great compassion. And then the Lord says, Mahasujaha, don't fear. So, this law of karma is not something to fear. It's something to understand. And then to use, to guide our actions today forward. And by taking to devotional life, a spiritually centered life, we can eliminate huge amounts of passive reactions. This is the mercy of the Lord. And if we see somebody suffering, we should not think, oh, that is their karma, and become callous and stone-like. No, we should find the greatest ways to be compassionate and think how I can help them. And during this month of Damodar, we'll do in a few minutes, by just offering a ghee lamp to the Lord. One lamp to the Lord. One can eliminate the amount of sins one has acquired in 1,000 yuga cycles. That is millions of years in one 30-second activity. This is the power of bhakti and potency of it. So we should engage anyone and everyone, as many as we can. Because this devotional service is so powerful. But there's even a third benefit. So not only is no new karma created, not only is past sinful activities destroyed, but the third benefit, this is the only process in which this happens. And that is, the heart begins to purify, so that the taste for these sinful activities also dissipates. The attraction to them goes away, so they'll no longer be inspired to do them again. You can do so many prayaschitta sacrifices to purify. You can take a bath in the Ganges. You can do some yajna. The problem is, Parikshit Maharaj says, this is like an elephant bath. An elephant goes into the pond and elaborately bathes itself. And as soon as it comes out, it throws dirt back on him. Is this what we do? We go through this purification. And as soon as we have, we're back to our sinful life because the taste for those activities is not dissipated. What is that attacks the bijam and kutam of this sinful life? It is devotional service. It is only bhakti that brings this benefit of purifying the taste. Param drishta nivartate. This higher taste will then lead us to lose our taste for these lesser activities. And that's why the Lord says, doesn't matter. You may be full of all four sinful activities, no problem. Just start chanting the holy names of the Lord. There is no prerequisite. There is no qualification. No, minimum threshold. Just start wherever you are. And by the natural additive process of spiritual life, these things will naturally dissipate. So this is the great potency. And it is up to us to then decide. Because we get to decide if I'm going to drive to Chicago or fly. And when I do, different outcomes are set for me. This free will is never taken from us. It is our choice, either to do good or to do bad. But our reactions are not our choice. Those are ours, whether we want them or not. But by taking to a spiritual life, we can move forward. And we know life is but a preparation. Because at the end, we're going to be asked, what do we want to do? And if we remember the Lord, everything becomes sweet. So, this is our great opportunity. And bringing the Lord into the center of our life, this is what we're going to discuss next week. So how do we practically do our actions that don't create new reactions? What does it mean? How do I go to the office? Does going to the office with a spiritually centered life mean I go with dhoti tilak and bang on a mridanga? No. I'll be given the pink slip tomorrow. Going to the office with a spiritually centered life, I'm going to explain, it means doing your job, doing it to the best of your ability, getting the best outcomes you can. Krishna told Arjuna, Vigata Jvara, fight without lethargy, don't be lazy, but do it with intelligence. So that is what we're going to discuss next week, how to practically bring the Lord into our life with all of our activities. And if we do it, we will cleanse the mind and make it the purest of places. And one will then actually experience the bliss of spiritual world even here today. So this is the summary, lots of things we covered, but ultimately, we are responsible for our own outcomes. What we put in, we will get out. This is something so we have to take. And we have a choice every day. And it is our duty to understand right from wrong. And if we take to the process of devotional service, we can make great progress in undoing all that's been in the past and open up a wonderful opportunity for us today and tomorrow and in the future. So, I'll leave you with one story. And this is to help us understand and remember the grace of the Lord in all circumstances. Once there was a king. And the king had a great minister who was his good friend. And the king was walking through one of his giant palaces, and one of the big doors got shut by the wind gust, and his hand got caught, and he lost his ring in the pinky finger. And he was devastated. I lost my finger. And his minister came to see him. He explained what happened, and the minister said, God's grace. And the king became very upset. He said, what do you mean it's God's grace? I just lost my finger. He said, God's grace. And the king became very upset. He says, God's grace? It's God's grace, and put you in jail. And he put the minister in jail. He said, you enjoy my government meals now. Enjoy. He was very upset. A couple months later, the king went out on a hunting expedition. And in pursuit of an animal, he became separated from his party. And there, he got captured by some dacoits in the jungle. And they were not so sane dacoits. And so they were these cannibalists. And they decided that they captured him. And they were ready to offer him as an offering to Goddess Kali. So they had tied him down on the offering pile. And they were ready to chop his head. And the person had raised the sword and was ready to cut. And then they realized, wait a minute, he's missing a finger. I cannot offer him to God. He's imperfect. He's incomplete. Oh, it's ruined. And they untied him. And then he remembered, oh, had I not lost my finger those time ago, today I would have lost my life. And he understood it was God's grace. And so he raced back to the kingdom. And he went straight to the jail. And he unlocked the prison and said, my friend, I'm so sorry. I now understand what you mean. But I have one question. I understand how it was God's grace that I lost my finger. But you, my dear friend, have been suffering in this jail for so many months. How can you consider that God's grace? He said, my dear king, you know, when you go on your expeditions, I'm always with you. I would not have gotten separated from you, and I have all my fingers. So I would have been gone. So you putting me here saved me from that. God's grace. Yes, sometimes it's hard to see in the moment, but in the end, even our difficulties is an opportunity for us. And that is the outcome. So, a couple of other quick announcements. So many of you have been asking, next 2 weeks we have the seminar of the modules concluding, but this is really the beginning of our journey. So what happens now is this is really the introduction to what we'll begin, which is our Bhakti Vriksha process. So from here, we will start to go into the Bhagavad Gita, and we'll be discussing verses, kind of verse by verse, and understanding in a very practical way, in a discussion format, how to apply these principles. And so, really, the set of modules is the groundwork for us to really embark upon our journey. And so these sessions will be continuing. If we're all fortunate for the rest of our lives, we'll also be continuing the kids program so that they can continue to learn and develop some of these principles. And so they'll take place. We'll be providing some more details in the coming weeks about it, but I just wanted to let everyone rest assured. This is continuing. This is actually a little bit wrong. I didn't update it. But it's a process that will continue. I also wanted to announce, I announced a little bit last week, but we have the 50th anniversary of the installation of Shri Shri Radha Kunj Vihari coming. This is an extraordinary opportunity for all of us. There are 4 days of festivals. I wanted to point you to 2 of them if 4 is not feasible. The first is Sunday, October 23rd, so a week from this coming Sunday, 9 days from now. If you have not been to one of our flower festivals, I highly encourage it. It is an extraordinarily exquisite experience where the Lord will be perform Abhishek with thousands and thousands of flowers, and then all the devotees will enjoy showering each other in the remnants of those flowers. It's a very blissful festival. People have, we talk about it. If you want a glimpse of the spiritual world, it's on this flower festival. So that is on Sunday, again 9 days from now. It'll take place at 4:15. And then Tuesday, 3 days after that, is Govardhan Puja. This is the actual 50th anniversary day of the installation of the deities. It is a very, very auspicious day in our Vedic calendar. I recognize it's a Tuesday, but I can assure you that whatever austerity we take to make time for this festival will be rewarded in many, many ways. Our children will be performing their drama also. We've arranged so that on this very special day, they'll be able to perform their drama for all of the guests. So we're very excited about that. We'll also be able to perform Govardhan Parikrama on this day and many, many other festivals. So this is kind of a few in the year are kind of must-haves. This is one of them. So please do make every opportunity to come and participate in this festival. For Govardhan Puja, if you would like to bring any offerings to make for the Anakut, you are most welcome. They can be dry, salty items or sweets, whatever you like. We prefer more dry items against either sweet or namkeen, and we'll use to make a giant hill. The the whole hill will be offered to the deities, and then of course the devotees will enjoy afterwards. So it is a epic festival that you will surely enjoy. So please don't miss that. Finally, tomorrow, if anybody is interested, we'll be discussing this Damodar Leela. This is a very sweet story of Krishna and Mother Yashoda. And we do this every year. It's an annual ritual. And those who have heard this many times still are anxious that when we get to hear it again, it is the sweetest of sweetest stories. But it is full of instructions, so much knowledge. And we understand the potency of bhakti in its simplicity. And so we'll be discussing this tomorrow in Rochester Hills at 7 p.m. So you all are welcome to join if you like. You can let Vinod Hari Prabhu know so we can plan prashadam accordingly. But again, please, if you like, you can join. It's a very sweet and beautiful discussion and narration that I assure you will like. And if you're not sure, you can ask those who have heard in the past. You'll enjoy it. And then finally, I mentioned this is Damodar month. So very auspicious month. Supercharged blessings where everything we do in spiritual life, including hearing, like we are today, we get great benefit. And so now we are going to offer a lamp. As I mentioned in the Skanda Puran, it is explained that one who offers a lamp burns millions and millions of lifetimes of sins. It is the greatest of opportunity we have. And so if you haven't already started, please do this every day. We'll do this every Friday. We'll be doing it tomorrow. We'll do it Sunday at the temple, but also at home. Please just light the lamp as a family. All of you can offer. And it has unlimited blessings. And we'll be discussing, or we'll be reciting this very beautiful prayer called the Damodar Astakam. And so I think we have printouts of those. Not that we have the printouts. So we have printouts of the Damodar Astakam. So we'll recite the Damodar Astakam and offer lamp. So you will take turns. While the people are offering, you can recite, and Anmol is going to lead us through the Damodar Astakam. So there's 4 lines in each stanza, as you see, so you can pass them up. Do we have the printout?
Yeah, he's behind.
Huh?
He's distributing.
So we'll just get these handed out here. Hold on one second. Try to put it up on the screen also. And we'll do question and answers also. I'm sorry if we missed that a little bit, but during Prashadam we'll do question and answers if that's okay. Okay. So again, we'll go 2 lines at a time. So Anmol will lead us in reciting 2 lines, and then we'll repeat, and we'll go like this. And there's 8 stanzas. Ready? Anmol, you want to take down?
Namaneswaram Sachidananda मुहुर्नेत्रयुग्मं रजन्तं करं भोजयुग्मेन साङ्कतनेत्रम् Sitagribam damodaram bhaktivadam Muhurvasakam patirikam bhagwantam Sitagribam damodaram bhaktivadam Iti diksarila birananda kunde Svagosham nimajantam atyam payantam Prema Krishna,
Did everybody offer lamb? If you have not offered, please offer.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,